All right, so today's lesson is going to be all about solving equations. In the last chapter, we were looking at solving equations but using algebra tiles. Today is strictly going to be solving equations algebraically. I know some of you had already done this in the last chapter, but we're going to keep working on this and making sure that we master it because it's very important that we all know how to solve equations moving on after today and tomorrow. So first things first, I want you to take a second and copy down these steps in your notes. Okay, if you want to go ahead and pause the video so you can do that. These steps are all to solve an equation. So it shows you the 4 steps that you want to make sure that you're working through as you're solving it. You can think about your algebra tiles and how to manipulate those whenever you're doing this, because that's going to be kind of the same thing. So step 1, we want to remove parentheses by multiplying. Again, not every single question you have are going to be having parentheses. Notice this first one that we have doesn't have parentheses. This third one that we're going to do doesn't have parentheses. So again, sometimes you'll have to skip this step, which is awesome. The second step is we want to combine like terms, but like terms on the same side of the equation. So imagine drawing that line down the middle of the equation sign. You can only combine like terms on this side or on this side. We don't want to take this 8 and 4 and combine them together because they are on opposite sides. We're going to move the 4 over here so that we can combine it. But as far as this second step goes, that's whenever you have something like this 4x and this negative 7x that are on the same side. Then we can add those together. Our third step is we want to move all of the variables or letters, think of x, to one side of the equation and all of the numbers to the other side, trying to keep x positive as much as possible. And then lastly, we want to get rid of any number that's directly next to x by dividing. Last but not least, if you still have a negative x at the very end, you want to flip everything, kind of just like those algebra tiles. The whole purpose of solving an equation is getting x equals something at the end. We don't want a negative x here. We want a positive x. So keep that in mind. So we're going to jump right into this. Keep in mind again, the notes, you should have this whole section of steps in your notes. You should also have all 5 of these problems solved, just like I do in the notes. So again, don't show me a picture of just these things. Don't show me a picture of just one equation. I want to see this plus all 5 of these examples in your notes, okay? All right, here we go. So starting with question number 1. Again, the whole purpose of solving an equation is I want to end up with x equals some number at the very end. So that means I need to get this x all by itself, which means I need to move this 2 and I need to move this 4 to the other side to where x is all alone on this side by itself. In order to do that, I want to get rid of any number that doesn't have x next to it first, which means this 4. This 4 is being added. So the only way I can move it to the other side is by doing the opposite. So since it is being added, we are going to subtract 4. What I do to one side of the equation, I have to do to the other side to keep it balanced. So if I subtract 4 on this side, 4 minus 4 is 0. I haven't used this 2x, so I'm going to bring it down and make it a new equation, 2x equals, and then 8 minus 4, which is 4. Okay, so now I've gotten rid of one of my things. Now I need to get rid of the second one. I have a 2x equals 4. Anytime we have a number that's directly next to x like this, that means multiplying. So again, think of the inverse of multiplying, dividing. So I want to divide both sides by 2, again, so that this 2 cancels out. So now I just have an x, which is perfect. So what is 4 divided by 2? 2. Awesome. So now I have my final answer, x equals 2. I can always plug that answer back in and check it like we did in the first chapter. I can plug in a 2 right here and do, okay, 2 times 2 is 4 plus 4 equals 8. So we know that that's correct. That's our first equation. Notice how I write out each step. That is what I want you guys to do in certain problems on the assignment. So I'll show you that later at the end of the video. All right, let's get rid of this question and move on to the second question. All right, so our second question has some parentheses. So let's look at these parentheses. Again, we are going to remove parentheses by multiplying. So let's get rid of these parentheses. So we're going to take the number that's directly in front of the parentheses and we're going to multiply it by everything inside of the parentheses. So we are going to do negative 3 times 2x. So negative 3 times 2 is a negative 6. And then because there's an x there, we want to make sure that we add that x. Negative 3 times negative 8. Negative times negative makes a positive, and 3 times 8 makes 24. If you are confused with negatives, please make sure that you use a calculator, because we don't want you to get this wrong because we multiplied 8 times 3 and got 24, but we think it's a negative 24. Okay, so make sure you're using your calculator. And then I'm going to go ahead and tack on that negative 12 on this side because we haven't done anything with it yet. Alright, now I need to get rid of this 24 because I want my x by myself. This 24 is being added, which means I am going to subtract it. Remember, what I do to one side, I have to do to the other. So if I subtract 24 from the left side, I have to subtract 24 from the right. I'm going to bring down my negative 6 because I haven't used that yet. 24 minus 24 cancels out. Negative 24 or negative 12 minus 24 equals negative 36. Again, my last step is to get rid of this 6, this negative 6. So I'm going to divide both sides by that negative 6. Negative divided by negative makes a positive, so this becomes a positive x. And negative divided by negative makes a positive. 36 divided by 6 makes a 6. So that's my second answer. All right, let's get rid of this one. Let's bring out our third one. So again, we're going to look at this and we're going to say, do I have any parentheses? No. Can I combine any like terms? I do have some like terms. I have this 4x and I have this minus 7x. So 4 minus 7 is going to be a negative 3. And then I have a positive 6 and a positive 9, which is going to be a 15. Awesome. Now that I have that all done, all my like terms are combined, now I'm going to, again, solve my problem. I have my x on one side already, so I'm going to go ahead and move this 15 over to this side. It is a positive 15, so that means I'm going to subtract 15 from both sides. Again, I'm going to bring down my negative 3 that I haven't used. These two will cancel each other out because they're 0 pairs. 18 minus 15 is 3. My last and final step is always to divide at the very end. Any number that is directly next to x I want to get rid of by dividing. Negative 3 divided by negative 3 is a 1, so I have my 1x right here. 3 divided by a negative 3 is a negative 1. So notice for the last couple answers, we've been getting whole numbers, so negative 1, 3, stuff like that. We are going to have some answers where we get a decimal or a fraction. So let's look at one that has a decimal or a fraction in it. Okay, so first things first, we have our parentheses, so we are going to multiply through. 4 times x is 4x. 4 times negative 3 is a negative 12. Don't forget this subtraction sign right here when we multiply. On this side, this 2x is not in front of the parentheses, not directly in front of the parentheses. and there's a whole subtraction sign in between. So this 2x, we're just going to bring it down. However, what we are going to multiply through the parentheses is this negative sign, or we can look at it as a -1. So -1 times x is -1x, and -1 times -5 is a +5. Okay? From there, what we are going to do is we are going to, combine like terms. So we want to take these two, combine them. So I'm going to leave this side exactly as it is because there's no like terms over here. But on this side, 2x minus 1x is just going to be 1x. You can either write it as 1x or you can write it as just x. Okay, now my next step is, again, I want to get both of these x's on the same side. So I'm going to move this one over here. Again, it's a positive x, which means the only way to get rid of it is to subtract an x. So 4x minus 1x is 3x minus 12 equals, and then on this side, x minus x cancels out, and I just get a 5. The next step is I'm going to add 12 to both sides. Add 12 to both sides. And then I'm going to bring down my 3x because I haven't used that. And then I'm going to cross these out. 5 plus 12 is 17. My last and final step is to divide. Notice when I divide, I end up with a fraction. I can either leave this as a fraction of 17 over 3, or I can write that as a decimal. So I can actually divide 17 divided by 3, and I can get a decimal, which would be 5.6 repeating. And so I can write that as a decimal of 5.6, or I can leave it as a fraction of 17 over 3. All right, last one. Super long one. Hopefully we have enough time to finish it. All right, let's see. So first things first, I have this over here. I'm going to multiply through my parentheses. So 5 times x is 5x minus 5 times 1 is 5. I'm going to multiply this -3 through my parentheses as well. -3 times x is -3x, and -3 times -2 is a +6. Perfect. Over here I didn't do anything, so I'm just going to leave that. I'm going to write it one more time just because I want to combine like terms on this side. So I have a 5x and a -3. So 5 minus 3 is 2x. And I have a -5 and a +6, which is going to be a 1. All right, so now we want to move the x's on the same side. So I'm going to move this 2 over here. So I'm going to subtract 2x and subtract 2x, which is going to give me a 6 on this side, plus an x, because I only have one x left, equals 1. I want my x all by myself, which means I have to move this 6 over here by subtracting. So I have x equals -5. All right, really quickly, I just want to say, notice how I showed all my steps. There are going to be certain problems on your homework assignment. Let me jump over here really quickly. There's going to be fill in the blanks. All you have to do is type in the answer, x equals 3. If it's a fraction, you can do 1 divided by 3 like that, or you can actually write the decimal of like 4.5. There are going to be certain fill in the blanks. All you have to do is the answer. The last two questions, notice that they say show all of your work to receive full credit. If you just type in an answer like x equals 2, you will not get credit. You have to show your work. So either submit a picture